I was hoping my brain was coming to an end, but no.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. We will go ahead and get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the wall back in the legislative chambers there. There's also an automatic external defibrillator. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin our regular business, I would ask that we take a moment of silence. We lost a very well-known defense attorney, James Martin Davis, who all of us know, very suddenly yesterday, and we would like our thoughts and prayers to go to his families and his colleagues in our community for that loss. I'm also going to turn the mic over to include in this moment of silence a request from Commissioner Maureen Boyle.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a request also for a moment of silence for the 13 soldiers who lost their lives in Afghanistan, and specifically for Corporal Dagan Page, who's local. The work they did was incredible and brave, and I think that it's important that we recognize that.
If we could all bow our heads, please. Thank you. With that, we will begin with our Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Maureen Boyle.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Boyle is absent. Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Here.
Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. And item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, September 14th, 2021 as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or an increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote. Oh, yours isn't working this time?
Was anybody able to vote or no?
I was.
Well, I apologize, Commissioners. Can we do a voice
Roll
vote in the
call.
meantime while
Yeah.
we try to figure out what's going on in the system? Commissioner Maureen Boyle?
Yes.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers? Madam Chair.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to resolutions. Resolutions D through I. Is there a motion to approve resolutions?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. Any questions or comments? Please vote. Or roll call.
So we're gonna try it again and see if
Okay.
we fixed it, but right now it's not looking too good. So, okay. I apologize, Commissioners. Another voice vote. We'll, while Mr. Goodwillie is doing his presentation, we'll play around with it some more. But Commissioner Marine Boyle, yes. Commissioner Kavanaugh, Commissioner Friend, yes. Commissioner Morgan, yes. Commissioner Rogers, yes. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next is our presentation from Mike Goodwillie from the Assessor's Office, our 3-year plan of assessment. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I think President Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor, Register of Deeds Office. I think presentation is a little bit grandiose. By law, we're supposed to provide the county board a 3-year plan of assessment every year. And rather than just slide it under the door and running away in the dead of night, we thought we'd put it on the agenda. I think you should have it in front of you, and if I were going to characterize anything in this report, if there's anything worth looking at, the very last page is a chart that we've gotten from MLS that will tell you what we're seeing and have been seeing on a sustained basis in the residential real property market. And it is a chart that takes the median closed selling price and compares it over time from January 1 of 2016 through the early part of 2021, okay? That median selling price started on January 1 of 2016 at about $160,000. If you go over to the right side of the map or the chart and look up following 1 of 2021, and you'll see it top out at about $260,000. We are continuing to see a sustained rise in sale prices year upon year upon year upon year. And I think if I were to characterize what we're trying to do on the residential side, it's just keep up because it's moving fast. On the commercial side, we actually are seeing some of the same things. There are some businesses that we tried to look out for because of the abnormal year they had in 2020 with COVID, the hospitality-based businesses. We're trying to gather data for through this year that will tell us if things have normalized or stabilized a bit. But what we are seeing is a rise in selling prices for commercial property as well. So there are at least some aspects of the commercial real estate market where sellers are getting more for their property than they had been. And so that's kind of it. I mean, if I were to boil this down, I would say we're just trying to keep up with what the market's telling us through the behaviors of buyers and sellers.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Thanks for this. Back to what you were saying regarding just the overall real estate prices, is this graph on the back page what you were referring to?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you have that electronically so that the public can see this?
Well, if somebody helps me with this, I always struggle with this overhead projector, but I sure do. I'll just take this off of mine. Oh, thank you. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. You can see the starting point is over here.
Right.
1 of 2016 at about $160,000. And if you go over along the right-hand axis to where it says 1/2021 and follow that up, you're just under $260,000. And in fact, it tops that mark a little bit later in 2021. The blue line is the Omaha metro area.
Okay.
But you can also see they're having the same issue in Lincoln and Lancaster County as well.
Those are the other colored lines
Yes.
on there. So it's consistent with our region. In terms
Oh, sure it is.
Right. So from 16 to 21, what does that equate to in percentage increases?
You know, I was told there would be no math. But that's why I went to law school. I was told there would be no math. But you know, whatever a $100,000 increase compared to $160,000 is, that's what it went up.
53%.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Morgan. I knew you'd have it.
Okay. And does this represent all properties, or are we talking?
Residential.
Okay. So if we had a graph of the commercial sector,
I don't know if there's one available out there. And I don't think it would look quite that precipitous. But what I will tell you is that we are measured against assessment sales ratios for sold properties. And typically, the applied understanding of that measurement statistic is if ratios come down over time, that tells you that selling prices are going up because the denominator has gotten bigger.
right?
And we started our commercial, I think our report card last year for commercials, we were at about 94%. And it's looking like the statistics for commercial are down in the low 90s or high 80s as we stand now. So it tells us that at least some prices for commercial property have been on the rise.
Okay. I'm trying to make this out. It's very small print down at the bottom. Is that the source of your numbers? Or up at the top it says GPRMLS statistic reports? Great Plains Regional MLS?
Yeah, the reason I've included this is there is a tendency when we say to people outside of our office, this is what the statistics are showing us.
Right.
And there's a certain degree of skepticism because they're not exposed to them and they have no idea how we keep statistics and how we keep track of any of this. MLS is reasonably well known and doesn't necessarily have a dog in this hunt. So this is more of corroboration to what we've been seeing all along with our own internal numbers.
Okay. Is this a trade publication?
You can find it online, yeah.
Specific to real estate?
Yeah.
Okay. So everything you need to know about taxation, I was told years ago, was base times rate equals
1 minute.
tax. So if we were to look at the base of real estate valuations
Sure.
in Douglas County over this same period of time, and I want to do that with you, so maybe we'll have you back, and you apply the same mill levy over time to that appreciating base, the base going up, you're going to get significantly more in property taxes by doing that. Is that
Yes,
right?
you are. Value times rate equals tax. If the rate continues to stay the same and the value increases every year, there's going to be more tax. That's exactly right.
Okay. And I appreciate that the Register of Deeds assessor is just a valuer, not a tax setter. But I want to have you back because that's a conversation that we need to have going into the mill levy property tax setting phase of our budget year. And it's important to know how much that base has
Time.
appreciated. Thank you.
Commissioner Maureen Boyle?
Thanks for that report, Mike. I wish that the public could see this report just because it really explains a lot. And I know that we have, of course, a lot of constituents that get frustrated with why their property taxes increase at the rate they do and how it seems disproportionate. But I think the point I really want to make is that when I came into this job, I really didn't understand how the whole property tax thing really worked. And when I would see disparities between different constituents, it always puzzled me on why it can be that way. But this, I think, helps explain some of that. And a lot of it does have to do with just the value of the homes themselves and how they would sell on the market. I think a key point, another part of the process that I didn't understand was that a lot of the valuation is actually per state statute. So it really, I feel like it handcuffs us a little bit, the board, as to what we can do to keep property taxes at bay, except to do things like, change the mill levy. So with the graph that you showed there, which again, I found very valuable, I think that we have to think about how do we keep people from being taxed out of their homes. So I'm asking you to speculate, and that's always trouble, but do you know if there's any way to, or what suggestions perhaps would you have to make to like help property owners who see these rises? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the main thing that we ask people to do, or we hope people do, is to check when they go out to our website. We have data about their property, the size and the the size of the lot and bathrooms and amenities and that kind of thing. The one thing they can do for sure is check their property on our page and be sure we got the right data. Because we don't get inside the houses, and candidly, I'm not sure I'd want to even if we could. That opens a whole can of worms I don't even want to speculate about. But let's at least have the right data for the property if we can. And so if somebody is looking out there and we've got them on for an extra bathroom or something like that, please let us know. We'll fix it. You know, what we can't really do much about is what houses are selling for in the neighborhood.
Right.
You know, you hit it on the head. State law requires us to value non-agricultural property at its market value or its actual value. And actual value is defined as the market value in the ordinary course of trade. So if houses like yours are, you know, selling within a certain value range, you know, in your neighborhood, that's probably what you're going to be able to get for yours too. You know, give or take, depending on condition and other items. So that's the one thing we really can't do anything about. So when I tell you what we're trying to do is just keep up, this is what we're trying to keep up with. And this is made up of the behavior of literally thousands and thousands of buyers and sellers. We are measured on a 2-year kind of rolling window of arm's length transactions. And the last 3 study periods have had between 16,000 and 17,000 sales in them. So this isn't an isolated, crazy person that overspent on their dream home. I mean, this is literally thousands of people, and this is what we're seeing.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Coming back to what we just talked about, would it be possible to get this, the information that you had up there on the screen, relative to actual assessed value in Douglas County over the same period of time, so that we could see that actual increase in our local property tax base?
We do keep, we can get you something like that. One of the things we have to do for homestead exemption is keep track of the average value of single-family residential property, because that kind of sets the parameters of how much your homestead exemption might be if you qualify. And I can get that data, and that's been climbing steadily as well.
Okay. If you could forward this to us, and maybe you already have, electronically, as Commissioner Boyle said, this would be very interesting to the public.
When we put it on the agenda, I forwarded it electronically to, it came electronically to Sharon Burke.
It is.
I'm sorry?
I said this report was put on the agenda electronically, so we forwarded it to Sharon in county admin.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that she's got it stashed away someplace.
Presumably.
It's on
okay,
the
we do.
website.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for this. And like I said, we may call you again on this very important question relative to the increasing base. Whether or not we do anything with the mill levy has a tendency, well, no, it has an absolute result of increasing people's property tax bill.
Well, you've hit it on the head. I mean, look, the decision on what to do with levy rates is driven as much by what that particular political subdivision feels like it needs to spend to provide the services it's supposed to provide.
Right.
So, you know, if there's more demands on spending, then it might not be unreasonable to leave the levy rate the same. But that's a decision for each individual governing body, you know, of the people that do property taxes, whether it's the city or the county or the individual school boards. And those are decisions that they need to make for themselves.
And it plays into recent statutory change. I think it's 4 or 5 years old now that I believe the legislature instituted that says you got to explain to property tax people when this phenomena occurs, that there's actually a property tax increase going on. I believe Senator.
Can we go to the?
Well, the legislature passed a bill, LB 644.
Can we stick to the agenda item, please?
Certainly.
Any other questions on the 3-year plan of assessment?
This is on
No,
the
this-
reporting of the assessed value of people's
You're
property
starting to
tax
talk
increase.
legislative. Are there any other questions you have, Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Okay. Under LB 644, don't we have to report to people that their property taxes are going to go up even if the mill levy stays the same?
Beginning next year, political subdivisions that are cities, counties, school districts, or community colleges who have a tax request that is greater than 2% plus their growth percentage are going to have to do this ginormous battle royale public meeting at which they make a presentation about what they're asking for and why they're asking for it. And then the public has the opportunity to comment. In fact, the county has to send out a postcard to everybody that might be affected, advising them of the time and place of that meeting. Administratively, it's going to be a hell of a task. But yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan?
In talking about the mill levy, which you did very eloquently, Mr. Goodwillie, the fact is that on the median price home, if this board chose to reduce the mill levy by 10%, which would be a big number, the county, we'd be saving the people approximately, I think, on the median price home, $4 and maybe 40 cents or 60 cents a month, because we take a small part of it, about 13% of the property taxes come to the county. Where, it's the schools, as you said,
I think
also,
the schools are
that take the largest percentage, approximately almost half.
It's more than half, actually. It's about 58% or thereabouts.
Is it 58 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be closer to 48, 51.
We used to have a chart someplace that
Yeah.
took a dollar bill and chopped it into pieces based on the percentage that different political subdivisions took.
So that's important to realize, that if the county was able to do that, and keep in mind, the only source of our revenue to run corrections, a health center, and so on,
Sure.
is the property taxes that we take, that the citizens pay. And the other thing I would tell you, the health center alone last year, and you could be a commissioner, Joe Lorenz, but our finance director can tell you, I think we subsidized the health center out of the general fund budget over $20 million last year. And that's a big source. So that's important to note what our mill levy is
Thank
and
you.
what portion we get.
Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the report, Mike. Mike, in the introduction, beginning in the year, tax year 28, I just have a quick question. In the beginning in the tax year 2018, in order to be more precise in the valuation of residential property, the assessor register of deeds divided the county into 17 market areas. We now have 19. Can you, and the geographic groupings of properties that were likely to share similar market characteristics. So we now have 19, and it's 2021. Can you tell me why there are currently 19 market areas, and who makes the determination that there will be 19 market areas? Is it MLS based, or does the assessor make that determination?
No, we make that determination. Our appraisal staff has divided up the counties, and typically those market areas track high school districts.
Right.
Because when
I knew that.
Because when they look at the sales, what they're seeing is those can be kind of reasonable. Boundaries isn't quite the word I want, I don't think. But what you do see are some market differentiation, from one area to the next.
It's final piece of this. If let's just hypothetically say there were 25
let's say there were 25 geographic market areas that shared similar marketing characteristics. So let's say in 2022, we increased it to 25 for one reason or the other, based on all the data that we have. Does that have a tendency to actually level things out for a taxpayer, or does it actually have a tendency to, I mean, historically we've done this. We've changed market areas and increased them. Can you quickly opine on whether that has an impact incrementally higher or incrementally lower? Just curious.
I'm not even sure how to answer that question, except to say that when we divide a market up into market areas, what we're trying to do is fine-tune who needs the adjustment the most. So, Commissioner Friend, if houses in your market area have been selling for 10% more than they were the year before, and houses in Commissioner Borgeson's area have only been selling for 3% more than the year before, we would hope that having that differentiation would mean we would address your market area before we addressed Commissioner Borgeson's market area, simply because what we're seeing in the marketplace is more robust in your market area than hers. And so what we're really just trying to do is kind of isolate the market forces for each of those areas to get a better handle on how fast are they moving, if they are.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
All right. No other questions or comments? Again, thank you, Mr. Goodwill.
Certainly.
All right. There is a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
All right, yeah, thank you. Oh, not for Commissioner Rogers, though? All right, well, Commissioner Rogers will appear as a no vote, but he voted yes, as do the rest of the commissioners. Motion passes 6-0.
We will move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Marine Boyle? Here. Commissioner Mike Boyle is absent. Commissioner Kavanaugh? Commissioner Friend? Here. Commissioner Morgan? Commissioner Rogers? Here. Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. And item B, approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve A and B?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Voting yes, Commissioner Rogers? Okay. Motion passes 6-0.
Next is our consent agenda, items A through H. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next, we have one recognition proclamation, and that is a resolution declaring September 2021 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Douglas County. In the past, we have done a resolution like this, but I will go ahead and read it. Whereas the American Cancer Society reports that pediatric cancer is the second leading cause of death among U.S. children between infancy and age 15. And whereas this tragic disease commonly takes the forms of bone cancers, brain cancers, leukemias, and lymphomas, and will be detected in nearly 10,500 children in the United States in 2021. However, because of the major treatment advances in recent decades, a significant majority of children with cancer will survive 5 years or more. And whereas our own Children's Hospital and Medical Center and the University of Nebraska Medical Center continue to make significant progress towards a better tomorrow through research, treatment breakthroughs, and novel therapeutic approaches, which ultimately lead to improving outcomes and increasing long survival rates. And whereas furthermore, there are an array of local and national foundations committed to providing patient support services, family services, housing, and fundraising in order to enhance the quality of life for children undergoing treatment and to assist their families. And whereas included among these entities and foundations are the Children's Hospital and Medical Center Foundation, Make-A-Wish Nebraska, Kids Cancer Connection, Camp Cahola, and the University of Nebraska Foundation, just to name a few. And whereas each year support campaigns and events throughout our region are held from radiothons to races and golf tournaments, there are many ways to support children and research in our community. And whereas this Board of County Commissioners urges residents to make combating childhood cancers a public health priority and to take time during the month of September and all year long to offer support, compassion, and care for our children affected by cancer, and to provide encouragement to medical professionals who have dedicated their careers to finding cures. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby declares the month of September 2021 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Douglas County, and urges residents and other local governments to join our effort to defeat childhood cancers by supporting advocacy work on behalf of the children fighting this disease. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chambers wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda?
Good morning, Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska. This morning I have maybe 2 or 3 topics. The first of which, I would like to see a resolution or proclamation about the Pledge of Allegiance. This is not a sports stadium, and I have witnessed, not in this particular body, but in the afternoon session where people from an organization that I consider anti-American and antithetical to our Constitution remain in their seats when we have a Pledge of Allegiance. And I would expect a body like this, who sometimes violates my First Amendment rights, to make it known that in this body, not being a sports stadium, that we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Because you all support the Constitution, of course, which means you support the Pledge of Allegiance, but obviously there are some circumstances where everybody disagrees on the application of that First Amendment. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. The next thing would be the sound system. I compliment this body because I have no problem whatsoever hearing you people. In the afternoon, for some reason, I have a lot of difficulty, but it's the same system and mostly the same operator. So I'd like a resolution that the city council members will sit at the microphone and speak into the microphone. If necessary, take their mask off. Because under the reasonableness rules, we have a reasonable expectation of being able to understand what you do say. No problem in the morning. I would also like to see the Open Meetings Act and the reasonableness clause of that, which the county attorney and the Nebraska Attorney General shall enforce, be open for a full debate, presentation, whatever you want to call it, in both bodies, by the way, and across the state of Nebraska, in any political body. Because you can go open that up in front of this body while we're on camera and try to read and understand that, and it's very difficult. The word reasonable is not defined. And that gives too many bodies across the state free license to make up their own rules and call it reasonable under that act. Some of the bodies recently did not post the most recent change to the act, but they still point to it. School board is guilty of all of a sudden changing it because I made comments about that. I guess that's it for today. But I would expect the body, if that happens here, to point out to people that remain seated that are known members of the Black Lives Matters Revolutionary Action Party people in Omaha to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in this body, since we as citizens all supposed to defend and protect the Constitution and our oaths of office. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the board about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, before we go into the presentations, I want to take the one public hearing that we have. Public hearing for a Class CK license for beer, wine, distilled spirits, on and off sale and catering. A Cater to Fair Inc., DBA, a Cater to Fair at 8351 North 134th Ave, 68142. The manager application is Kathleen Sylvie of 13538 Boyd Street. This is the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Good morning.
I'm Kathy Sylvie.
Nice of you to be here.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any comments that you'd like to make? Okay. Are there any comments for or against? This is the public hearing. I will close. Oh, Commissioner Boyle.
A quick comment. After reading through the application, I just wanted to congratulate you on your successful business. Yeah, it seems to be going very well, and your projections are impressive. So it's nice to hear that.
It's been a challenging year. It's an exciting year.
Yeah, I was going to say that in spite of the year, it sounds like that you're kind of a bright spot.
Hanging in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. I'm happy for you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I will close the public hearing. What's the will of the board? Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We will move back to the presentations. Our first is our COVID-19 update and COVID-19 vaccination plan update presented by Dr. Lindsay Hughes, our Health Department Director. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. On a very soggy morning.
Yes.
All right. As you probably remember, last week I made an announcement that I had submitted a request to the state to approve a mask mandate for the county of Douglas County, and unfortunately that request was denied. I wanted to officially make sure that you had that update. Unfortunately, we do continue to see increasing rates of COVID-19 in our community, so we'll go over some of that data. As you can see here on our transmission dashboard, we remain in the high category for our transmission risk, and just for a quick refresher, that is based on the total 7-day cases per 100,000 and on case positivity. I'm going to move this little box here so I can navigate just a little better, maybe. Okay. All right, so currently we're sitting at 215 cases. That's the 7-day total per 100,000 here in the community. About a month ago, we were sitting at about 100 less than that. So we continue to see a rise there, in the last couple days. It has started to at least slow just a little bit, so fingers crossed. I don't know that that necessarily means that we're at the top. It could just be a glitch or a small slowdown in the trend where we're continuing to rise. It's also important to note that school has been in session for a couple weeks now for most of our districts. We are seeing transmission with our pediatric population and our adolescent population. We've had a number of events here in the community. So we are keeping our eye very closely on these numbers. We also are, it looks like we have some new data points that might be coming to us soon that we might be able to talk to you a little bit more in depth regarding how we are connecting people to each other in terms of transmission. So if we can tell whether truly, a case is related to a case is related to a case, we can do a better job of identifying clusters, essentially. There's some new data that's forthcoming, hopefully, in the next few weeks regarding that we might be able to share with you. So I think that would be useful for you to be able to see kind of where our transmission and where our clustering is really happening. All right, cases. I know our cases per age is always a hot topic, so we'll zoom in here so we can see the last 4 weeks or so. And just as a quick reminder, the pediatric and adolescent age groups are really those age groups that are in that green and below. So the darker green, light green, yellow, and orange. Everything above that are adult populations. So as you can see, over the past 5 weeks or so, the proportion of cases attributed to those pediatric, that pediatric age group population has continued to increase. So, this was a pretty small group of bands back on 7/31, the end of July. Here we are a couple months later, end of August, and you can just even eyeball that and see that those have grown pretty significantly. So the highest proportion of cases right now are occurring in that basically 0 to 19 age group. So we continue to see quite a bit of transmission there. And that's followed closely by the 20 to 29 age group. So just for your reference, that's really where we're seeing the most transmission occurring. No surprise, because we have very high vaccination rates. When you're getting up into these warmer colors, we do have at least approaching herd immunity in those groups. So it's not surprising to see a little less transmission happening up in that area. For our weekly cases by zip code, this is what we're currently, and this looks like it needs to be updated. It looks like I only have back to 8/7, so I'll ask my data people about that. So you've probably seen this map maybe a couple times now. I know that our cases are continuing to basically spread throughout our regional area. And just for a quick reference on that age group chart that I just showed you, last week it did not show up for us. Every now and again, the update occurs simultaneous with our meeting, and when that happens, it does not show on the screen, and so I've asked them to move that so that it doesn't happen for us again. All right, a quick note on hospitalizations. So hospitalizations continue to be a concern, and I'm sure that most of you heard the words of the governor this week, or I guess late last week, regarding the state of emergency, regarding occupancy in general with our hospitals, and the DHM that he issued to relax some of the licensing standards for our healthcare personnel so that we are able to hopefully get more healthcare personnel into our hospitals because staffing really remains the biggest challenge that we're running into in terms of taking care of people. So Our occupancy rate does continue to hover pretty high. This morning or last night I should say, we were at 76% occupancy rate in the region, which remains fairly high. That has bounced as high as 86 and 87% over the past week. So definitely, we are staying up in those higher numbers. Our ICU is 83%, and that's this other blue line over here. So you can see that line has continued to go up. And then pediatric ICUs have dropped, at least yesterday, down to 35, which was pretty amazing. There were some questions about that, though, between the hospital systems. So I've been in on numerous meetings with the hospital systems over the past few days, and there are some concerns about some reporting issues there. They feel that what they're seeing on the ground doesn't match that. So they're working on seeing if that is actually accurate. And of course, if there is an issue there, I'll report that to you with our data next week and let you know what's being done to correct that. Right now, we have 32 ventilators in use. So that's this yellow line down at the bottom that you see. So you can see that this has definitely gone up. So even just a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting at around 14, 15 ventilators in use specifically for COVID. We now are double that. So that is concerning because the acuity of the illness that we're seeing in the hospital is going up. So we're seeing more people who are needing that really high level of care in order to breathe. Something that we just were able to add to our dashboard that I wanted to let you guys know about, because we get lots and lots of questions on this, is regarding breakthrough cases. So we all are hearing, data or information about, I have a friend who was fully vaccinated and they had COVID, or, 3 people in my office got COVID and all of them were vaccinated. What's happening? So we really wanted to be able to put that into context for the community and to be able to really speak to what's actually happening out there. So what we have here is the whole population that's vaccinated and then the number of breakthrough cases that we've actually counted. And this is as of the 26th of August. We will update this, I think weekly is what we decided on. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some updated information each week when I come to you. But right now, what we're seeing is that of all of those people who've been vaccinated, about 0.5% became a breakthrough case. So we are definitely seeing breakthrough cases, and that's not unexpected. We definitely knew that we would see people who were vaccinated still getting COVID. But something else that I will remind everyone is that the people who are being hospitalized typically are unvaccinated. The ones that we have seen in the hospital that were vaccinated typically are those who, have other issues happening, so they're immunocompromised in some way. Perhaps they have cancer, perhaps they've had an organ transplant. They have something else that's going on really that has impacted their immunity. So typically it's not the healthy 30-year-old who was fully vaccinated and then got COVID. So that is what we're seeing, and the hospital coalitions are actually working on some more data graphics regarding that particular issue, looking at hospitalized, vaccinated and unvaccinated, because we get that question quite a bit too. So I should, in the next week or two, be able to share that data a little bit more readily with you as well. So I'm looking forward to being able to give you that. A quick peek at vaccination rates. So we are continuing to push forward on that. We still don't have, a method set up just yet for tracking those third doses, but we are offering them and we will be reporting them. We just don't have it on here just yet. So right now, our over 12 population, we're sitting at 70.9% with 1 dose, and 58.7% of the whole population, so including those under 12 kiddos, with at least one dose. So out of the whole population, of course, it's lower. I have not heard any updated information about when vaccine might be approved for those under 12. I have been watching anxiously, as I'm sure the rest of you have as well for that, but have not seen that yet. For fully vaccinated, 65.5% of our over 12 population right now is fully vaccinated, and then 54.2% of the whole population is vaccinated. So slowly but surely, we're continuing to push toward that. Let's see if we can look at one of our maps here, or one of our. Here you can see we continue kind of on this flat but slight incline. So we're continuing to give them, and that number of doses that we've given is continuing to climb. It's just a pretty slow climb. So if you were running a marathon, this would be a pretty good course right here to get to run. All right, and then kids, because we're in school, this is something that's always kind of a hot topic and something people want to know about. So this is just an overview of the 12 to 17. So we had a little bump around the end of July, early August, where we were seeing more of that age group coming in for vaccinations, which makes sense because they knew school was about ready to start. That has fallen off since. Oh, here's what I wanted to give you. So that 12, basically that adolescent population that's actually eligible right now, we're sitting at 59.6% with one dose and 49.5% fully vaccinated. So that's up a little bit from last week. So again, we're slowly moving towards that and trying to get those numbers up as much as possible. We had really hoped that with full approval, we would see higher numbers. We haven't seen the rush yet. Keeping our fingers crossed that it's still coming. And then these you're familiar with, and these are just the maps that show by zip code where our one dose and fully vaccinated residents live. So this is our one dose. We're starting to fill in just a little bit through kind of this central corridor, and then fully vaccinated. So the ACIP did meet yesterday. They're the advisory committee that oversees when we have vaccinations coming out. They ensure they have a very robust framework that they apply to the science to ensure that basically every safety consideration has been taken, that the research is being done correctly, and they are the ones who ultimately make the recommendations for vaccines. So they met yesterday regarding boosters. So third doses are already approved for our immunocompromised population. Boosters would be for other people in the population who perhaps their immunity is waning because it's been a while since they were vaccinated. What came out of that meeting is that they're meeting again in mid-September to discuss further how they want to apply boosters. So there was some discussion about rolling that out perhaps to higher risk populations. So if you think back to December, January, when we did this initially, how we were doing the priority groups by risk, it sounds like they're having discussions just for initially ensuring that people who are highest risk are getting boosters first. And then, of course, the big priority remains just getting people vaccinated. So people who have never been vaccinated, we still want to encourage them to come in and get their vaccine. So just a quick update on what's been going on with them. Again, sounds like they're going to meet again in a couple weeks, so I'll keep you updated on what we hear at that time. And with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Thanks for this. Just to kind of go through some of the more salient points. Among this population of unvaccinated kids, the 12 and unders, what's our plan for those kids, waiting vaccination and they're not able to get it?
Right, so right now we're working closely with all of the school districts on whatever their plans happen to be to limit transmission in the schools. So, you know, some of our schools have opted to mask in those populations, so they're masking in elementary schools. We have a couple of other districts who have gone to universal masking K-12.
So could I just stop you there for a second? You're recommending to all these school districts that they mask these kids 12 and under in school?
We actually recommend masking for everybody.
Okay.
Yes.
And the OPS, I think in District 66 have adopted the mask policy, is that right?
OPS, West Side, and Ralston, I believe, all have some level of mask mandate at this time.
Okay. So what school districts in Douglas County do not have a mask mandate?
That would be the rest of them. So Bennington, Elkhorn, DC West, Millard.
Okay.
Is that all of them?
Do those school districts largely align with these zip codes that we're looking at here in terms of the percent?
So this is the
sorry,
vaccinated.
The one that showed the
cases?
the recent increase. There you go.
Okay. So they do, and just a reminder, we have a quite large population also in those areas, but yes, those would be consistent with.
Okay. And I see that we have positivity numbers actually reported now. Thank you for that. But I don't see a percentage on that. I'm not a math whiz, so do you have a positivity rate for Douglas County that you could share with us?
We don't post it because it changes, and it depends on how much. Well, actually, you know what? Let me not say that.
There's a
Let
kind
me
of
see
a
if I can
graph with
find it.
gross numbers, but it's not translated into percentage. And I ask that because I understand from immunologists that I talk with that percentage triggers certain things in our community, whether it's getting better or worse, certain things that we should do.
Yeah, so you could math. The percentage is not actually done here. And this is people that are positive and the people, so basically the people that are positive and the number of people tested, and then on the bottom here is the number of tests and the number of positives. So of course one person can have multiple tests, and they often do that.
Could you share that with us? Because I think at one point, if you see on those graphs, the positivity rate very recently, a couple months ago, was extremely low. And now it appears that we are at a positivity rate about as high as we were, or maybe higher than we were 1 year ago. Is that about right?
So a year ago would have been
August
in here.
Last year.
Yep. You would be, well, at least people positive is close. I would say we're higher.
We're higher now than we were a year ago.
Yep. And it depends on how many tests are actually, I'm kind of eyeballing it.
Right.
Yeah. I would say we're higher.
Okay. So what was the positivity rate a year ago? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. No.
Could you give us that? I mean, we can do the math, and I'm presuming that the public could as well, but it would seem to me that it would be very quick and easy to get a percentage on these.
I can have it to you probably here in just a minute.
The vaccination among the 12 to 17-year-olds, I think you indicated that about 49.5%, about half of them are fully vaxxed. Is that right?
Yep, 49.5.
Okay. So in that cohort, what numbers are we talking about? I was trying to figure that out as well, and it looked like there had been 61,532 doses, which gets us to about 50% of those kids. So it would be a number that is in that cohort that's still not fully vaccinated. Welcome back.
Commissioner Maureen Boyle.
Yeah, thanks again for the report. I like the idea that you're going to get an overall idea in Douglas County the hospitalized, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. I know that hospital systems are putting out that data, and it's quite eye-opening. They make it very visual, so they're little stick figures that,
Yeah.
that tell you who's vaccinated and who's not, and it's very obvious that the unvaccinated population, those are the ones that this pandemic is hitting the most. So I think that would be great information to aggregate that for the county. And then a couple more things. One is, I don't feel like we've heard much published lately about the vaccination side effects, like myocarditis in the younger population, or the clots that J&J was temporarily taken off or put on hold for a bit. Do you know if there are other side effects that we're seeing now that we've got more of a population vaccinated, or do you know what those particular issues are, if we're still seeing a lot of those?
So we know that, like with the myocarditis issue, we know that there is a very small rate of that's going to happen in the population that gets vaccinated. That was a true signal, but very, very small. I have not heard that has increased or gotten worse per se. The side effects that were initially, identified in terms of those short-term side effects, so, feeling crummy the next day and things like that, those still hold true. One thing about vaccinations that we know is that if you're going to have, I guess, long-term side effects, typically that's going to happen you're going to identify something in the first eight weeks after getting a vaccine. We've basically exceeded that for a lot of people, and nothing new has really come of that. People who their entire job is to watch the vaccine adverse event reportable system, which most of you call VAERS. They watch that very closely for any signals of safety issues, and like you saw with J&J early on, they stopped administration until they could investigate fully what was going on there. And once they felt okay with continuing, then they let everybody know to continue. That work has not stopped. They continue to do that. I have not heard any major new issues coming out on that front.
Okay, and then just one more thing. We know that, of course, OPS, Ralston, Westside have mask mandates to a degree for the kids. Do you know if there's a difference in the cases of kids who are getting COVID when broken down by school system? Or the zip code information would allude to that, I would think.
So we are actually tracking that, and I will be able to report that by district in the next probably week. The problem that we have right now is that numbers are being included of basically cases that would have occurred on day one of school. Those cases obviously were not related to school transmission. So it's unfair of us to attribute that, into a school, a case rate for a school or a district when that's not true. They weren't even there on the first day of school, so they weren't transmitting to other kids in that environment. So basically, we're waiting for some of that data to fall off and be cleaned up. We're working on all of that, but we will be reporting by district. So I will be able to share that information with you. It's just that they've only been in school for just barely 2 weeks, which is barely an incubation period. So we are definitely working on that, and we'll be able to give it to you.
All right, great, very good, thanks.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Just to go back to some of the recap information, so we have, according to the latest I see on the dashboard, 747 people have died in Douglas County that we know of. Is that a right number?
So I'm so sorry. Ask that again.
747 deaths due to COVID-19 in Douglas County. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's out of 77,846 positive cases that we know about.
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Correct. So in the fully vaccinated population that we have there, 54.2%, at the vaccination rate that we're proceeding at, when would we reach, I guess, what they call herd immunity in Douglas County?
So it's a little different for every population and every each disease and each type of vaccine, it usually is hovering somewhere around 80-ish%. We're definitely not there yet.
Right. And based on our vaccination rate, when do you extrapolate?
It's going to be a little while yet, especially because when you're talking about herd immunity, you really need to look at your entire population. Keeping in mind, we have an entire population that's not even eligible yet. So you're never going to reach herd immunity until you're able to include them in vaccination efforts. Because basically, anytime you have those kids mixing with, somebody in the herd who hasn't been vaccinated and might be harboring, the illness, you're basically starting the whole process over. So, yeah, when you're talking about herd immunity, it really needs to be something that you're applying to an entire population, not just adults or just adolescents and adults.
And that cohort, the under 12s, what percentage of the population does that represent?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't know off the top of my head. Okay. Sorry.
Do you think it's 20%? I mean, if we're getting to herd immunity somewhere in the 80s%, is there 20% of the population under 12?
It's probably a little higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know that we don't have every adult, if we're approaching 80%, I know we don't have every adult close to vaccinated, so.
And I know, all the families in Douglas County, which probably most of them have somebody under 12 somewhere in the family, are looking at this. And I don't know if there is estimates going forward that you could share with us relative to when they would be eligible for vaccinations. Are there?
Yeah, so we're keeping our eye on that, and we're, like I said, I was waiting. We didn't know what the agenda was for ACIP yesterday, so I, this morning, was checking that and really hoping it was going to be about our kiddos, and unfortunately it wasn't. But we're keeping our eye on that, and as soon as we have any estimates or know anything, I mean, we've been hearing, October timeframe on that, and I haven't heard any different, so right now that's kind of what we're projecting.
Okay. I've also heard estimates relative to, depending on when that vaccination becomes available for those children, how many of those children in that age group, under 12, would likely become infected. Have you heard estimates on that? I've heard some chilling percentages.
I mean, pretty high, without vaccination and continuing circulation in the community. It's fair to assume that at some point, most children would become infected.
Most in that cohort of
absolutely.
under 12.
And that's not saying every single one of them is going to get severely ill, but at some point, probably most of them are going to have had COVID at some level.
So that's our most immediate challenge right now then, is that population of unvaccinated children, right?
I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hughes, we know that the state took down their dashboard of data, but that they are putting some data on the DHHS website. Is there a way that we could also add it to ours so there's one place to look at all the data?
Sure.
So we can compare us to the state?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can definitely do that.
And then the other issue of comorbidities, I get a lot of comments on that, when you talk about the deaths, well, what was their other issues? Or if they're hospitalized, what are their other issues? Well, if someone has, just use cancer, and they go into the hospital with pneumonia, and God forbid they pass away, that death certificate will most likely say pneumonia. So I think people are looking to try to say we're ratcheting up those numbers because a lot of these individuals that are either ending up in the hospital or, again, unfortunately passing, had all these other underlying issues, and we're not reporting them. But we are reporting them, correct, under risk indicators, I think it is. Do we have the or maybe it's under hospitalizations. I thought there was one that showed on us, we had comorbidities, a graph of it.
It may have come off at some point. I know that I'm looking, here we go, underlying
There,
conditions,
yeah.
present deaths.
So again, we're reporting it, but not necessarily, we don't want to drill down so we give anybody's
Correct.
health information out,
Correct.
but we are reporting it.
Yes.
Okay. And these are the deaths, not the hospitalizations.
Right. We're not typically putting that information out regarding hospitalizations, and we don't necessarily know that for hospitalizations. The difference is that when a death is reported, it's listed on the death certificate, so extrapolating that data is a lot easier than with a hospitalization. It's reported differently.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was correct in telling folks that what I just said.
Absolutely.
But again, I think it is a big point, though, again, that someone can have these underlying health issues and multiple underlying health issues. But if they go into the hospital, again, if it's COVID, if it's pneumonia or whatever, and they pass, again, we're not writing it on the death certificate. The physician is writing, the hospital's writing it on the death certificate of what they are actually, quote, passing from.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Okay. The physician who certifies the death is the one who lists what the cause of death is, and if there were any contributing factors and any other diagnoses that were related. So yeah, all of that gets put onto that, but not by us. All we do is report it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right.
And I am trying to get for you the answer on positivity, if you can give me half a second here. I did not get a good answer. I need to clarify it before I give it to you, but I'd be happy to get it for you soon.
Okay.
All right.
We do have one question from the audience. Louise?
Hi.
3306 Birch Street. Good morning, Commissioners. Good to see you.
Mr. Mendes, you gave your address but not your name.
Huh?
You gave your address but not your name.
Oh, Luis Jimenez.
Thank you.
Hello. I was a proponent for the mask mandate from the city, and before the council members passed the mandate, I was frustrated with the governor that he would intervene with the previous health director. And I am trying to find the information or the statute for once he thinks that he can intervene. It would be nice for the governor to point out exactly where the law is, because at this point he's threatening to take health directors to issue a mask mandate to court. But I think that if he pointed it out where he's got the authority for the public, that would be helpful. I know that Lancaster County has a mask mandate. It was instituted recently, so I don't know if that has happened. The news, when I read the articles, they don't say what the statute is, from where the governor is saying that it's his responsibility and only his responsibility on the mask mandate. I'd like to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. I really appreciate that. So there are state statutes that essentially have changed over the last few months even, just prior to when I came, that essentially made it so that the local health departments, in order to implement something like a direct health measure, so a mask mandate, have to be approved first by the DHHS. So the request went to DHHS DHHS collaborates internally with their people and with the governor to make that decision. So that's who the request went to, and that's who basically issued the denial for that mask mandate. So that's the county procedure as it is laid out currently. Lincoln-Lancaster County operates a little bit differently, so statutorily they were exempted from that. I'm not exactly sure what process they went through for that, but they were able to retain their authority to issue DHMs locally, and so they're just operating differently statutorily than we do here. So that's why they're able to essentially do things a little bit differently than we are here.
Thank you.
And I don't have the statute number off the top of my head, but I would be more than happy to send it to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Commissioner Morgan?
Louis, you like the mask mandate. How come you're not wearing a mask? I mean, I like to have everybody that wants to wear a mask wear it. And I'm just curious because you're up there telling us about a mask mandate and standing within 3-4 foot of our health director, and you're not wearing one.
Don't come to the podium, please, and state your name.
Luis Jimenez, 3306 Birch Street. I've been vaccinated, and the last time I heard a health director talk about a mask mandate or wearing a mask, she said that if you were vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask, that the masks aren't required. So I'm vaccinated, and I'm doing things that hopefully prevent me from being exposed to the virus again. I'm using a lot of hand sanitizers, keeping my distance, but I would wear a mask if it was required.
Okay. The only thing I'd say is, like myself, I'm wearing the mask even though I've had the vaccination. I think all of us have had it, but I think we do it out of respect to one another, and I think it's a good choice for us to make, and that was the only thing I was curious about.
Is that all, Commissioner Morgan? Yes. Teresa?
Teresa, your county attorney's office. To assist, if I may, Dr. Hughes, it's Chapter 71 is one of the places that you'd want to look. And then it's, I think it's, and this is from memory, I think it's 711631, 711630 is, I think, where Lancaster's authority comes from, and I'm not as familiar with what they're doing. And then there's also some additional language like at 71501 and 502.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Hughes, I think this is a good educational moment. I'm sure there's a lot of people like Louise that thinks that. So would you please take the opportunity for the public to educate on what the new standard is?
Absolutely. So recently, the CDC did come out with updated guidance, especially in light of the Delta variant. And at this time, we definitely recommend that everyone wear a mask indoors in public areas, regardless of vaccination status. Totally understand that CDC guidance changes fairly quickly. So it's very possible to miss those. So yeah, we definitely would like everyone to wear masks indoors, regardless of whether you've had the vaccine or not.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Hughes? Well, again, thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
Our next presentation, Cash Vest 3+1. Karen's going to call up their presentation, and I'll just give a quick update on this. That during my time as a NACO officer, I learned a lot about this program and asked them to come to Douglas County and partner with us because I saw very good possibilities, opportunities for us. Thank you. Opportunities for us in that partnership. They have since been working with our treasurer's office and have some really good data to share with us about the positive things that have occurred, not only in the past, but since they've become a partner with us, and then where we hope to be in the going in the future. So with that, I'll go ahead and let Garrett introduce the program as a whole, and please state your names and obviously your wish cast best, but please state that for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's Garrett McDonald, Senior
And can
Vice...
you speak into the microphones just a little bit?
Yes.
Maybe push them both together.
Perfect.
That might help a little bit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's Garrett McDonald, Senior Vice President of 3+1, and I'm here with my colleague Tyler Frame, Senior Relationship Analyst, and we really appreciate the opportunity to share some good news about a terrific program that was created by public finance officials for public finance officials. It currently, as Commissioner Borgeson stated, is sponsored by 12 different state associations across the country, including the Nebraska Association of County Officials with the National Association of Counties. And the feedback that we've received from the hundreds of counties and public entities across the country that we work with is if we can provide an additional tool and resource to help maximize the value of cash management outcomes and liquidity management outcomes, that is a great thing for the taxpayers. And one thing we would like to congratulate the Douglas County Treasurer John Ewing and the Board of Commissioners and the Finance Office at this county is really being proactive and being in the top tier counties nationally for liquidity management specifically. In fact, over many years prior to our engagement with Douglas County, the Treasurer's Office, in conjunction with the Finance Office and all of you, have brought $9 million plus to the taxpayers through innovative cash management practices. And that is something that we simply do not see around the country today. So really want to congratulate all of you and Treasurer Ewing for an incredible job doing everything that they can to bring additional value on the taxpayers' cash. During a time, by the way, when our data shows, as an independent data provider, objective third party, we don't manage cash, we're not a bank, we don't provide investment advice. All we do is data analysis on liquidity on every bank account for every financial partner on every dollar that comes into deposit to show the Finance Office, the Treasurer's Office, and all of you to work in collaboration to bring transparency and say, if we can help maximize the value on cash, let's work together to provide an additional tool and resource to be able to do that. These are some county CashVest peers from around the country. You know, when we were working with Executive Director John Cannon of the Nebraska Association of County Officials and Executive Director Emeritus Larry Dix and Deputy Executive Director Candace Meredith, we said, if something's happening in New Jersey that's helping treasurers, finance officers, and the taxpayers, we think it should be happening in Nebraska too. And if something's happening in New York that's helping taxpayers and providing an additional tool and resource, we really think it should be happening in Nebraska too. And the same thing goes in South Carolina, in New York, in Pennsylvania. What we're hearing is during a time where historically counties around the country, through the passage of coronavirus relief funds and the American Rescue Plan recovery funds, are receiving new cash resources to help the county combat the coronavirus, but also in the passage of the American Rescue Plan Act, the interim guidance allows the county to use any interest income that is generated off of those funds to be used in any manner that the county would like. It's really providing liquidity through data to maximize the value of cash. And we all know the three pillars of public finance. The most important pillar is safety. The third and least most important pillar is yield. But what connects safety and yield is liquidity. And currently, as I mentioned, Douglas County has an incredible staff whom we've met that has brought incredible new resources, over $9 million over a number of years. And if there is a tool and a resource that can take safety, take yield, and combine it and is the link using data resources for liquidity, that is a great thing for Douglas County. You have in front of you what we call our CashFest report. It is a quarterly report in addition to the presentation that shows you some of the data resources that is a new tool that complements what's currently happening at the county right now. Some of the different areas that we've been able to partner with the county treasurer and the finance officer is stress testing and forecasting how much cash the county has and how long it's available for. Really, this is a confidence builder to say if there is opportunity to go above where we are, let's take advantage of it, and let's have a third party certify that we're doing everything that we can. We analyze bank fees. We analyze investment management portfolios to provide an effective yield. If you make an investment today, it could take years to be able to see those returns as those investments mature. We want to make sure during that time that we can continue the great work of the county to benchmark those funds against the allowable designated depositories in the community, against the benchmarks within your investment policy, and nationally against counties to make sure, again, if it's happening in Pennsylvania, it should be happening in Nebraska and beyond. In Nebraska, Douglas County has been an example for liquidity management. Treasurer Maria Walls of Beaufort County, South Carolina has a quote, and we love it. Nothing bad comes from more data for enhanced planning. And that's part of what we provide. The graph that you see on page 6 is the actual time horizon of funds for Douglas County. It shows you a consolidated view of its liquidity and the duration those funds are held in deposit. These advanced modeling components, again, continue to complement the great work of the county and provide this independent third-party perspective, again, especially during a time where maximizing cash resources is really paramount. And if we can use all the available options that the county is allowed to use, it's opportunity to continue to bring new resources for taxpayers. A couple of the realized benefits so far, so important, again, to show that these are enhancements and a complement to the current work that is being done. Up to $34,000 in a benefit from additionally adding approximately $10 billion to a portfolio that the county has. Great financial partners that the county's working with. Over a $66,000 benefit, collaborating with the county's main financial partners, helping with fees and providing benchmark data. Achieving premium float schedules on check cashing, eliminating some reserve requirements, and optimizing account structures, approximately $11,400. And continuing to bring benchmark data over time on specific money market accounts brings an additional $120,000 to the county taxpayers. This is confidence. This is continuing to bring opportunity as we move forward that can enhance cash management outcomes for taxpayers, and there's still more to do. We have what we call a CashVest score. You'll see it on the quarterly CashVest report that was provided to you. And when we first started working with the county, the CashVest score was in the 90 percentile of counties nationally at a 77. As of May, we're at an 82. And we know we can get to 100. We can maximize the benefit using data of ARP funds, again, because any interest that's generated on those funds can be utilized for other county programs. We continually update this data to provide a third-party perspective of where the investment potential is and that it's safe using that liquidity connection. We have a dedicated team of technology and individuals that are working with county staff and entities around the country, and it's a complement. Again, this is a new resource, and we want to complement what current staff outcomes have provided. And it's continual certification that the county's fees and their financial partners are providing the best possible outcome. So congratulations for, again, prior to us engaging about a year ago, the county treasurer's office with the finance office has calculated over $9 million in additional benefit. Over the past year, there's been significant benefits and opportunities seen through really just enhancing and bringing new tools to the forefront of their office. And we believe that if we can go from a 77 to an 82, that 100 is right around the corner. Our fees overall are $92,000 annually divided in 4 equally installments. Again, these are investments that are made over time that can bring significant benefits. One example is Suffolk County, New York. We've really been able to help them institute these data practices. They're significantly larger than Douglas County, but they've brought over $3 million. Many counties all over the country are bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we know that that's possible here. And we just, again, want to congratulate you all, your finance staff, Treasurer John Ewing, for the incredible work that has been done, for the opportunity to provide these data services over the last year, and for the opportunity to continue to partner together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Garrett. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Thank you for this, Mr. McDonald. This is great news. And I want to commend John Ewing, the county treasurer, for again
Yes.
being forward-looking and very innovative in his fiscal policy that's been a great benefit to the taxpayers of Douglas County. I find this fascinating because the graphs, and I probably will be following up. You made a mistake of putting your phone number on here, so I'll probably be calling you. That indicate, the availability of certain funds to do some creative investment with to capitalize on our ability to get interest payments on funds that we weren't getting interest payments on heretofore. And that sounds great. So you've been helping us for about a year, I think you said?
That's correct.
Okay. And during that year, all in, and I saw it in here, but I'm just asking you to give us kind of the quick number. What has been the benefit in dollars to Douglas County from CashVest's work for us?
$77,687 through bank enhancements on page 8.
Right.
Up to $34,000. That's using the benchmark rate on cash. We did a rate quote request across the county and identified different opportunities. The county currently has 2 fantastic providers that have performed very well. And we believe over time, through the performance that has happened with the county cash, that benefit could exceed $34,000, but we like to underpromise and overdeliver. And of course, those investments were made recently, and so they have not matured yet, or you haven't realized gains. So certainly using the bank enhancements number of 77,687 and the additional investment of $10 million brings it close, over $100,000.
Okay, so it would be the total of the 77,687 bank enhancements, up to 34,000 additional $10 million invested, and up to 120 collaboration with bank and county on exception rate for market money account.
Yeah, when the COVID pandemic hit and when we engaged with the county, a lot was changing in the financial marketplace. The Fed lowered rates faster than they have in history. And so as rates were falling, the goal was, if we can provide liquidity data that helps the county's main financial provider identify opportunities to put that cash to work in the marketplace using that data and sharing it collaboratively, can we find out if there's an exception rate that can be provided to the county? Now, again, we don't like to underpromise and overdeliver, and we can't take credit for all of the great work that has happened. A lot of it is attributed to the great track record, again, that Treasurer Ewing, his staff, and the finance staff has contributed. But it's very safe to say between the $77,687 and the $34,000 that's just a start.
So it would be safe to say that the sum total of these three numbers that we're looking at on this page is basically the benefit that we realized through Cash Vest's efforts working with the Treasurer's Office.
You will benefit over time because, of course, the investments haven't matured yet, so you don't realize on a cash basis those hard dollar increases right now. And I just want to make sure that
1 minute.
No, I appreciate that. Do you have an estimate of what that time window would be? Just
well, the average duration of the county's current portfolios is about 2.5 years. So as the investment advisors identify opportunities in the market to possibly liquidate or have those investments traded, they may find additional opportunities to actively manage that portfolio. That's an area that we don't do. We don't manage money, but we do think there's a benefit. We know there's a benefit in having a third-party data provider ensure this information is being monitored so that they are incentivized to do the best they can. So approximately, looking historically at the average maturity, about 2.5 years.
that's great. And would you be back on an annual basis to kind of give us an update and a benchmark?
This is my second time in Omaha, Commissioner, and I can tell you that if you'll allow us to and we can work together, I would like to come back more than annually, sir.
Time. Thank you.
And thank you, John Ewing.
Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McDonald and you and your team, this is good stuff. I plan on going through, I love this type of stuff, and they're great metrics, at least from a high level that I've looked at so far. You're in a competitive space. Wells Fargo, Chase, U.S. Bank, even regional banks, FNBO, which obviously helps us at the county level. Is there, you've alluded to this briefly when Commissioner Kavanaugh was talking to you, but what's the key separator? I mean, how do you keep those wolves at bay? Because I'm sure they'd like to do business with us, right?
That's a great question. Part of what, with respect to your question, part of what's great about data is that you can't fight facts. And if you have a data service that is monitoring not just what the providers are providing for Douglas County, but we work with Lancaster County and counties across the nation. And all of those institutions work with all of those counties. And having a data provider that is using the data that's being collected nationally to ensure that you're always getting the best is very important. And that's how we bring this new perspective to light. And it's one of the reasons why the National Association of Counties actually is a part of our business. They own a piece of it. Is they said, these are best practices to do exactly what you just said. Use data to ensure that the county taxpayers are getting everything that they can and maximize the opportunities that those institutions could bring if they can provide better performance and outcomes.
Okay, so, and real quickly, so you're not slapping them, you're not slapping these big banks on the side of the head and saying, by the way, we're going out to get this car dealership now too. I mean, you have a vertical market, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Okay, no, that helps. Thanks. I look forward to digging through this. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Friend.
Any other questions or comments? Again, I just wanted to bring this to the board from not only a great program, but the working relationship that they've had and the work that they're sitting in the back there, all from the Treasurer's Office. We have, again, benefited from this partnership and hope to continue in the future to get to that higher score. I think it's proven from the 77 to 82 the benefits of it, and so let's see what more we can do to benefit the taxpayers of Douglas County. So again, I appreciate you all being here, and we will hopefully do more frequent updates going forward since we've seen the positive impacts this has made. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
We will move to committees.
Excuse me, Marion.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha. I don't know why I get into these things, but referring back to the Open Meetings Act, where it says that the agenda should give enough notice to the citizen as to what's going to be the topic of the agenda. Now, as I read the presentation item on this agenda sheet, it gives me no idea of what the cash vest means. So I have no idea if I want to come down here and talk about it. I have no idea what it is. So in a way, that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. However, I want to say that I'm a little ridiculous at times, but this reminds me of that movie about the great state of Iowa with Robert Preston and the 76 trombones and the march down right here in River City. It was a great presentation, one of the best sales pitches I've heard. But I fail to understand why the citizens of my county and counties all across need to get their advice and their resolutions and spending plans and budget plans and things from outsiders. Aren't there intelligent people here in Omaha, Nebraska, and in the state of Nebraska, in all the counties that can do what these gentlemen are doing? All I'm saying is there needs to be more transparency so we can understand what's going on and why this would be a benefit to me. It sounds good, but it's also maybe that medicine man wagon, you know? And in most cases, we don't get to say these kind of things. If it's a presentation, yes, I can barge up here and say something, but I can't get a two-way discussion in most cases, except I kind of wonder if there was another violation of the Open Meetings Act just a few minutes ago when this gentleman came to the podium and he exchanged conversation with the last presentation, excuse me, and then he's exchanging information back there. Well, there's something, why is he interviewing people that was here when other citizens cannot do that? I remember February, I think it was, in 2020, when I had a couple of commissioners here that were really entertaining because they had to leave their chairs, I think I mentioned this last week, and come down as a citizen to say, what rules? We don't have any rules. Kind of like Elmer Fudd, no ammunition. That's why you need more back and forth conversations so the citizens can benefit from being here. And that is the intent of the Open Meetings Act, is transparency and citizen involvement in petitioning their government. So you need to rethink your...
Larry, can you talk about the item?
You need to rethink your application of the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to committee. That's the budget, under finance, the budget report as presented. Yes.
It might be good to just state, because you had item B, that's going to be next week on the agenda in the book, redistricting.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that. Sorry, thank you.
I just thought
I had
it's good
under,
for citizens to
yeah,
know that
thank
that
you. Under presentations, we had the 2021 redistricting process and proposed timelines, and it was my mistake. It should have been on for next week, so thank you for noting that.
Yeah, week after.
Yeah, September 14th, right? Yeah. Okay. With that, thank you. Human Resources is just the weekly personnel report as presented. No legislative items at this time. There are minutes from our August 17th Human Resources available. We do have a Human Resources committee meeting after this meeting. We do have need for an executive session for litigation. And please note that we do not, as it was just stated, we do not meet Tuesday, September 7th So the next scheduled meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners will be Tuesday, September 14th. With that, do we have a motion to go into executive session for litigation purposes? Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Please vote.
Okay. Okay. Motion passes 6-0.
Recording stopped.